My dear friend, you probably like to travel since you're here, and I'm glad that you're going to join me on this adventure. The best way to travel is to have a plan of all the places you want to visit, ancient sites of historical significance, museums, key historical landmarks, natural attractions, and opportunities to meet diverse people whose perspectives and lifestyles may differ from our own. That's what makes a road trip so interesting, the anticipation of what you're going to see, to learn, and who you will meet. A good plan will inspire this anticipation that helps to conquer many uneventful miles. Today, we'll explore North Florida, specifically the Tallahassee and nearby coastal areas. You wouldn't think that there's much history and nature to see here, but I'm hoping to change your mind about this low country of marshes, rivers, and swamps. Welcome, my friend, to another adventure of Visor Visions. The first stop on this journey south is Colomoki Mount State Historic Park, located in the southwest corner of Georgia. This is the largest woodland Indian archaeological site in the southeastern United States. The woodland culture people lived here from the 3rd to 7th centuries, and later the Muskogee people lived here briefly. It consists of at least 8 earth mounds. The tallest Mount 8 today is about 56 feet or 17 meters, but 1500 years ago it was at least 75 feet tall. Approximately 1500 to 2000 people lived in this village, which was built around a large plaza in the center of the complex. It was a place for public ceremonial activities and rituals, including games. The ancient people picked this remote site probably because it was the shortest and vertical line distance, 310 miles or 516 kilometers between the Apalachicola River in the south and Tova Mountains in North Georgia, connecting many villages and towns in between. The real name of this remarkable town is not known. The name Kolomoki comes from the Muskogee group who were called the Colima people. Around 539 AD, a massive asteroid or comet struck Florida and caused a catastrophic tsunami, which probably flooded much of southeast Georgia. At the same time, supervolcanoes erupted in Central America and Iceland, which caused a little ice age for several decades. By 750 AD, this village had very few residents. Only 85 miles south of here in North Tallahassee is another important prehistoric archaeological site worth visiting, Lake Jackson Mounds State Park. This was a regional ceremonial center of the southernmost Mississippian cultured people who lived in this area from the 11th to 16th centuries. The complex originally included 7 mounds and a public plaza. At its peak, about 1,500 people lived here. Artifacts found here from the 1970s excavations include copper plates, headdress badges, pearl beads, copper tools, and ceramic pipes. Similar artifacts have been found as far north as the Spiro site in Oklahoma, and many other sites throughout the southeast. we are going to make a leap by a few centuries to 1539 and visit a nearby De Soto Site Historic State Park, also located in Tallahassee. In 1538, a Spanish army led by Hernando de Soto landed in the Tampa Bay area. Nearly 600 heavily armed adventurers traveled more than 4,000 miles from Florida to Mexico to explore and conquer the southeast of North America. In 1976, Calvin Jones, a state archaeologist, recovered more than 40,000 historical artifacts, including Spanish olive jars and a pig bone that is not native to America. This proved that the De Soto army camped right here during winter from 1539 to 1540. Kind of disappointing. I expected to find a museum showing some artifacts found at this important site, but nothing. But no worries, we have a lot more to see. The old Capitol building is only half a mile from here. The name Tallahassee is a Muskogean language word translated as Old Fields or Old Town. It was likely an expression of the Creek people who migrated here from Georgia and Alabama to this region in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. They found large areas of cleared land previously occupied by the Appalachian tribe. The Muskogee refugees from Georgia and Alabama joined with members of other tribes, including the escaped slaves, to form Seminoles. During the First Seminole War, General Andrew Jackson fought two battles in and around Tallahassee, which was then Spanish territory. The first battle took place in 1817, just west of present-day Tallahassee. The Red Stick chief Nematla refused Jackson's order to relocate, and Jackson entered the village, burned it to the ground, and drove off its occupants. The Indians retaliated, killing 50 soldiers and civilians. Jackson re-entered Florida in March of 1818 and completed his initial plan. Florida became an American territory due to an agreement between the U.S. and Spain in 1819. Back in those days, Pensacola was the capital of West Florida and St. Augustine of East Florida. The first legislative council of the territory of Florida met in 1822 at Pensacola, and members from St. Augustine traveled 59 days by water to attend. The second session was held in St. Augustine, and the delegates decided to hold future meetings at a half point, and that's how they selected Tallahassee.
The plan was to just knock down this building and put in a plaza. But the community didn't want that. They said there's a lot of history here. We want to keep this building. And so the compromise was to get rid of these renovations and expansions, and turn this building into, restore it to the 1902 form, and turn it into a museum to commemorate the political history of the state.
In 1845, a Greek Revival-style Capitol building was completed in time for statehood. Now known as the Old Capitol, it stands in front of the high-rise Capitol building built in the 1970s. During the American Civil War, Tallahassee was the only Confederate state capital east of the Mississippi River not burned by Union forces. A small engagement, the Battle of the Natural Bridge, was fought south of the city on March 6, 1865, just a month before the war ended. And it just happened that the Civil War reenactment was happening this weekend. During the final weeks of the Civil War in March of 1865, a combined Union Army and naval force assembled in the northern Gulf of Mexico of St. Mark's. Almost 1,000 Union soldiers, including several hundred Floridians, landed near the St. Mark's Lighthouse and prepared to move inland. At dawn of March 6th, the sound of gunfire could be heard at the natural bridge crossing. The first attempt by the Union troops to cross quickly was checked by sudden fire. Both sides reinforced their positions during the morning, and the northern troops searched for another route across the St. Mark's River. Unable to find another crossing point, the federal commander chose to force a passage at Natural Bridge. Near midday, the Union troops attacked. For several hours, the woods and swamps echoed with the sounds of gunfire. Resulted in 148 casualties on the northern side and 26 on the southern side. The Confederates repelled 3 major attacks, and the Union troops were forced to retreat to the coast. The Confederate victory ensured that Tallahassee would remain in the Southern hands for the remaining of the war, the only Southern capital east of the Mississippi River that was successfully defended. The battle has been described as the last Confederate victory in the Civil War, and it was the second largest battle fought in Florida.
They're portraying militia, and that was the style of coat militia in Florida wore in the Second and Third Seminole Wars right up to the time of the war between the states. And they're old enough to have been there. I think Mitch may have been there.
To the right about, peace. Ready. Hey. Recover.
It was interesting, but you might want to consider some quiet time after this experience. For those of you who prefer camping over a comfortable bed in a hotel, I would highly recommend Hall Landing Campground on Lake Talcott, just west of Tallahassee. You will enjoy talking with the charismatic campground host and seeing a magnificent sunset. I didn't quite understand when he said that I would see 2 sunsets this evening, but it did make more sense after seeing this. This lake is so beautiful. I'm impressed. Our journey south would not be complete without seeing the largest forest in Florida, covering over 630,000 acres, the Apalachicola National Forest and Tate's Hell Forest. You'll probably need a 4-wheel drive to explore this forest and a reliable GPS device since there is no cell phone signal here. I did get lost, but eventually found my way out after a few hours of roaming on these often flooded and muddy roads. After a well-deserved refreshment, you might want to visit another historical site. The one I would highly recommend is San Marcos de Apalache. In 1679, the Spanish built a fort and a settlement here. The site changed hands throughout history, from Spain to Britain, then back to Spain in 1783. General Andrew Jackson seized it in 1818, and Fort St. Mark's Military Cemetery was established at that time. 19 soldiers are buried here, and most died from different diseases that were common at that time in these swamplands. In 1818, a U.S. soldier, Duncan McCrimmon, got lost on a day out fishing. He was captured by two Muskogee warriors who tied him to a tree and were getting ready to execute him. Princess Millie intervened and persuaded her father not to do it. However, later her father was captured in the First Seminole War, and McCrimmon informed her where her father was. She probably witnessed his execution. He was hanged by orders from General Andrew Jackson. She, along with others from her father's town, were then ordered to walk to Fort Gaston, and from there back to the Creek Nation in Alabama. McCrimmon found her and brought her a modest monetary gift from the citizens of Milledgeville, then the capital city of Georgia where he lived, and he offered to marry her, but she declined. She married in 1832 but was relocated on the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma. She survived and built a small cabin on what is now the grounds of Bacone College in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Her husband, a warrior, died in 1837 on his journey to join her. She became the most famous Native American woman of the 19th century and was referred to as Creek Pocahontas, and hundreds of baby girls were named after her. However, she lived in great poverty with 3 surviving children. Congress approved her pension of $96 per year and gave her a medal. Princess Millie received this news just before her death in 1848. Her grave is not known, but it's nice to see that she is still remembered here.
Tell you about Ms. Leila Fine Gresham. She was the oldest daughter of the Fines, and she and 3 siblings and her parents lived here in the early 1900s when her father was the lightkeeper. Mm-hmm. He died in 1912, and her mother took over as the lightkeeper and was here for 12 years. And then Leila didn't. If she went somewhere, she wasn't gone very long because she married a lightkeeper and she was back here for many years and raised her family here. It looks like she had very blue eyes.
Yes.
This is the crew of the Ringling Brothers yacht at the Lighthouse. They were here in 1920 for a Canada goose hunt, and that means that they sailed the yacht from Sarasota to here. Have you ever been to Sarasota?
No, never.
Oh, because there is an art museum that is exquisite. It's a fabulous art museum. And they
Is it modern art or
No,
classical?
It's a lot of Rubens.
Oh,
and
I gotta go.
I mean, that filled up this whole wall. And just gallery after gallery after gallery of all these masters that John Ringling made money from the circus, and he invested it in art.
Okay.
There is a life-size statue of David, Michelangelo's David.
Obviously
Yes.
copy, right?
Yes, it's a bronze cast from that statue, and I mean, I grew up nearby, and
Okay,
it
that's-
used to be free on Sunday, and my parents would drag us down.
Okay.
And there's a little theater on campus too, Oslo, ASLO. It's from Oslo, Italy.
Okay.
And it was, I found out just recently that Mussolini is the one who took it apart during the Second World War, it was abandoned.
Okay.
And Ringling bought it. It was boxed up in crates and floated over and shipped to
Okay.
Sarasota. And
Okay.
it was put back together.
I gotta visit
Yes,
that
you need to
museum.
visit Sarasota.
When you get to places like this, you don't know which way to look. Birds, islands, marshes, lighthouse, open ocean. To be honest, my friend, I'm not such a good planner. My goal for this trip was to see the lighthouse, but I got so much more from this adventure. Sometimes it just takes a little courage to decide to go somewhere, and everything else just falls into a place for a perfect travel experience that you will remember forever. Thank you for traveling with me. I hope this video will inspire you to leave the comfort of your home and go out. This world of ours is so beautiful. There are so many incredible places and wildlife to see. There are still places like this that are not destroyed by concrete. I'm glad that places like this still exist. Thank you, Florida parks. There are still enlightened and peace-loving souls who would be delighted to meet you. But there's so little time. Use your time wisely, my dear friend, and join me on this short journey to spread the word of peace and mercy. Let's be kind, not just to each other, but also to this nature and its beauty that still gives meaning and hope in our lives.
Heart filled with worries, no more. In a world full of sorrows, what for? You watch the world from the place beneath the willow, the willow. So many years, too many tears on your pillow, on your pillow.